Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hoggcast. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing fine. I certainly am. Well done, Glenn Youngkin. He is successful, as well as a few other Republicans. You've done very well. This is the fallout. Now, this is collated footage of what used to be called journalists. These are all mainstream media stooges. This is a collection, and when we watch this clip, it's one clip. I've got one clip to show you. Try to keep that in mind. These people are probably the only people left on Earth, apart from the real dyed-in-the-wool leftists, who believe that they are journalists. It's like one of them said, I think it was Van Jones, who said that they don't understand how they're coming across to ordinary, real human beings. And that's probably the only truthful thing he's ever said. Because when you're going to see this, you're going to see that these people aren't actually journalists. I mean, you knew this all along. But it takes something like this to truly see that these people are evil. I mean, these aren't misguided, innocent, decent people. These are actually evil people. And not only that, they are what they accuse you of. And again, we've said this many times. You know this yourself. You've probably seen it with the left. That they are everything they claim to oppose. And they do everything they claim to be fighting against. Classic Leninism. They will accuse you of what they are themselves. But it's no more starker than it is here. Gone are the days when you would go to work for the day, you would come home, you would turn on the evening television, the evening news would be on, and you would get usually a pasty-faced man shuffling some papers, and then he would say interest rates remain stable, you know, or talking about a burglary at a farm in which 7 sheep were stolen. Hey, maybe in Wales, the Welsh would that. It's a British joke. So let's get into this clip and keep that in mind. Everything I've said, keep that in mind as you watch this, right? So we'll get into that now. If you haven't yet, though, please like the video if you find it informative, subscribe to the Hoggcast, hit the notification bell, and share the video around if you find the video informative. I have a membership scheme. We have 8 amazing members so far. You can become a member of the Hoggcast to support what we do here in the face of horrendous censorship, because we are the underdog. We are conservative commentators. Anyway, let's go. Okay, so remember, journalists. These people want you to think they are journalists.
Played the race card for a reason, because he knows it works on certain white voters.
He did stoke white grievance politics to mobilize the Republican base.
I have no idea what that is. I might stop it to make some points that I feel I need to make quite often in this video, because a lot of what they're saying is eye-wateringly discriminatory against people that look like me, and I should imagine you too.
Laundered Trump's really sort of disgusting, flagrant out racism. He's wrapped it in education.
Education, right, which is code for white parents don't like the idea of teaching about race.
That's the
teaching about race. What does that mean? What do you mean teach about race? What's there to teach? Explain it. Are you talking about CRT? Well, that doesn't teach about race. It uses race as a function to assign innocent human being children, babies, as either good or bad, innocent or guilty, oppressor or oppressed. And people reject that. People want the days of these talking head idiots to say interest rates remain stable and somebody stole some sheep from a farm. They don't want this. They want those days.
Fundamental problem for these parents and this anti-CRT movement. They don't like the way whiteness is being portrayed in these new, more inclusive lessons.
Of course we don't. Because we don't even know what whiteness is. What is whiteness? It's another one of these terms: white guilt, white fragility, white rage, white privilege, whiteness. What the hell do all of these mean? These are all substanceless labels to get what they want. These are all substanceless labels to dehumanize me, you, and what's worse, your innocent children. Yeah? And they talk about the race card. Conservatives, we don't use the race card. The race card is for you. And this is what I mean when I say when you're listening to these. I mean, look at his face. Look how hateful this person is. I often say, he wants you to think he's a journalist. Yeah? They are everything they accuse you of being.
This wasn't about those pocketbook issues. This was about how white kids feel talking about what black kids go through.
The subtext of all this was, we can't let these black and brown people run the country.
Glenn Youngkin.
What do you mean? You had Barack Obama for 8 years. White people voted for him. A lot of the people who voted for Donald Trump actually voted for Barack Obama. So what are you talking about? Have you noticed, right? Also, when you're listening to these people, try to remember there is an underlying, every now and again, what they actually want and what they actually mean creeps its way up to the surface. You'll notice that they've started talking about this power thing and how white people are losing power. So you would ask them, as a non-white, a POC, do you want power? The answer is, of course, yes. If they said no, they're lying to you, because they're the one who keeps bringing up power. They're the ones who want it. They did run for election, after all, or they helped people who are running for election. Well, if you want power, why is that good for you and bad for me? Answer me that one. Why do you want a country that is majority POC? Why is that good, but a white majority country is not good? Especially in Europe, where it's our home countries. Why is that bad for us and good for you? You have all of the hallmarks of someone who actively wants to replace an entire ethnicity. And we have a word for that. Genocide doesn't have to be a quick process. It can take time.
Running on critical race theory that he knew hit a chord around race.
I think all the CRT stuff is trumped up dog whistling.
Some of it was dog whistle racism.
The dog whistle messaging that you saw Youngkin engage in during the course.
This is another term that the left use now, dog whistle. Everything they don't like is either a dog whistle or something along them lines. It's always this. It's the big lie. You notice how they all use the same language and they all use the same buzzwords at all the same time, every single time, and that's not a coincidence. You're a fool if you think it is.
Of the campaign.
CRT is in the latest line of school busing, crosstown busing, welfare queens. You have it. It's in that same line, and you saw it in the results in Virginia.
This more palatable Republican who still uses the same racist themes that Trump did. He just packaged them in a soccer dad sweater vest model.
He's found a way to launder a pretty racist trope, this idea that we cannot talk about America's history because it...
This person, Joy Reid, is one of the worst human beings on planet Earth. Really, she is. She's a disgusting, despicable person. And she is the most racist person on television, without a doubt. If she was white, and take anything she says at any time, any day, throughout her entire career, if you changed the words white with black, she would have been fired on day one.
It hurts my feelings. He's turned that into a campaign.
White voters do have anxiety about a changing America, right? That it is blacker, it is browner.
You've got the...
Who said that? What would you know about it? You're not white yourself. It seems to be you have to vote the way we want you to vote, or you're racist, you're this, you're that, you're a domestic terrorist. All of it. The whole... And another thing, I know I've asked you to keep a few things in mind as you watch this, but another thing to keep in mind, the rhetoric they're using is astoundingly irresponsible. The direction that Western society is heading in is not good, I'm afraid to say. Things will get worse so long as these people are allowed to spew their hate, so long as these people are calling the shots, okay? Things will get worse. You can't just constantly, night after night, use phrases like insurrection, domestic terrorist, okay? And that's being levelled at ordinary parents. You can't label ordinary citizens as these things, especially along racial or communal lines, and not think that your actions will bear fruit, because they will. Society is already in a fragile state. We've never been more divided. These talking heads will tell you that's my fault, or the local parent's fault. It's the parents' fault for voting for Youngkin, when actually it's these guys' fault. These talking heads, the propagandists. Why? Because of the rhetoric they use. Because there are people out there stupid enough to believe these people. There are still people who actually watch MSNBC and CNN and think that they're being informed about something, or they're getting educated about the world around them, when they're not.
Republicans yelling like, hey, look, the black and brown folks are coming for us.
When did Glenn Youngkin ever say that? When did he say that? Show me. You said that, not Glenn Youngkin.
Republican candidates are perfectly willing to use race as a motivating factor for their base. That has gone on for decades, and it happened this year.
Race.
Did you accidentally say Republican instead of Democrat? I think you meant Democrat.
It's just the most palpable tool in the toolkit. It used to be of the Democratic Party back in the day when there were Dixiecrats, and now of the Republican Party.
This is about the fact that a good chunk of voters out there are okay with white supremacy. Let's call a thing a thing. Actually, scratch that. They are more than okay.
Grief. What are you... Remember, right, as I said when we started this clip, these people are meant to be journalists. You know this type. Smartly dressed, they sit in front of a television screen with a stack of papers in their hand that they go shuffle, 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 and then they tell you interest rates remain stable. Or they tell you about a missing cat that was found up a tree by firemen. You remember journalists who would tell you about stories, local stories and local things that affected people. Or even national news with national actual stories. Where's the story in any of this you saw from these people? Where's the valuable information? There wasn't any, was there? Watch it if you have to. Go back, now I've said it, and watch again. It is a wall, a tidal wave, a torrent of propaganda, anti-white, anti-American, anti-freedom propaganda. Just a wall of it. And the thing is, they just keep doubling down. Their rhetoric seems to get worse and worse. Where do they go from here? I mean, they've already labelled us, indecent parents, as domestic terrorists. What else have they labelled us as? Oh, of course, racist. And everything you can think of, we're everything. Insurrectionists, we're that as well. Forgetting that the fact that the people who actually went on to found the United States, the country that is the United States of America, could be considered insurrectionists themselves. We wouldn't get into. We'll ignore that. Yeah, the founding fathers, many of them, launched an insurrection against the crown, the British crown. They're good, but people walking around the Capitol building are bad. What do you say to that? I cannot abide what modern journalism has become. They are so reckless. And the only, like I said, the only good thing that's come out of it is Van Jones. I believe it was Van Jones. He says many stupid things like all of the talking heads do. It's a tool of the trade. But one thing he said is that these talking heads in their bubble and the Twitterati on Twitter, they have gone so far left, like trying to outdo each other with self-flagellation, because wokeism is a religion. They've gone so far that they've reached a point now where essentially there's no going back, because the schism between how they perceive the world and then us over here in the real world and ordinary people in the real world, the schism between the two is so far that Van Jones said they sometimes don't realise how they come across to the public. They don't understand it. And that's the only truthful thing he said. These people, because they think they're much smarter than you, one, they don't actually care how they come across to you, and two, they think that they don't need to know because they're better and they're woke puritanicals. So being the purest of woke puritanicals, they don't even need to know how they come across to you. That's the way they see things. But he's right when he says that. They don't get it. They don't understand the signals they send out to the world because they live in an echo chamber. I think wokeism has a unusual side effects. It has many side effects, but this particular one is that it stops the genome in your brain that deals with self-awareness and acknowledging when you're being hypocritical, or if you're angering or offending people, or if you're out of place. You know that sense where you think, oh, I better stop now, or I better not say that, or I better not do that. That genome, wokeism destroys that genome. So they will just do anything and say anything, right? Because they don't understand that. For example, they could say one thing. They could give you a speech, 10-hour-long speech about the ills of alcohol, and then as soon as they're finished, they'll go straight over to the table and down a pint of vodka. And then they'll double down on it when you call them out on it. They will accuse you of being racist, then they'll get a second glass of vodka. And then if you try to speak out again, they'll shut you down, sick Antifa on you, or BLM, and then triple down and get another glass of vodka. And then tomorrow, they'll go to the next place and they'll wax lyrical about the ills of alcohol again. That's what they do. They are human caricatures. They've cancelled comedy because no one's allowed to laugh at anything because they're puritanicals. The satirists at like the Babylon Bee and the like are struggling to keep up. They're struggling to keep up with the doubling and tripling down of these talking heads, these losers that don't know they're losers. That's the most dangerous type of loser, someone who doesn't know that they're a loser. Anyway, look, I'm ranting here. I didn't mean to rant. I just wanted to show you this because I was infuriated when I saw it. I mean, we've heard all of this rhetoric before, but it's the lack of awareness. It's the unapologetic hypocrisy, the shameless hypocrisy. They wear their hypocrisy like a badge of pride. A pride. They should have a pride event about their hypocrisy. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.